based on police reports and evidence from neighbors. David Harper, Maplewood, Pennsylvania. The stranger at the window. A quiet Pennsylvania town is reeling after a chilling and unexplained incident that left David Harper, a 35-year-old accountant, found unresponsive in his home early Wednesday morning. The unsettling circumstances of Harper's situation have left residents anxious and searching for answers. Maplewood, a small town known for its tight-knit community, rarely sees anything out of the ordinary. But last week, the town's sense of safety was shattered when David Harper was discovered lying on his kitchen floor, his eyes wide open, his face frozen in an expression of sheer terror. Harper, who had recently moved into a modest bungalow on the outskirts of town following a divorce, was described by neighbors as quiet and private, often keeping to himself. He had only lived in the house for a few months, but no one expected him to become the center of a mystery that has gripped the town. "I saw him just the other day. He waved to me from his porch," said Rebecca Coleman, who lives across the street. "Nothing seemed wrong, but now, it's just so eerie." According to police reports, Harper was last seen alive on Tuesday evening. He had spent most of the day at home, working remotely as usual. Around midnight, he called 911, reporting an intruder outside his window. The call, obtained by this newspaper, captures Harper's tense voice describing a man staring at him through the living room window. "There's a man outside my house," Harper told the dispatcher, his voice shaking. "He's just staring at me. He's at my window." Police responded to the call within 10 minutes, but by the time officers arrived, the man was gone. The officers checked the property but found no signs of forced entry, no footprints in the wet grass, and no evidence that anyone had been there at all. There have been a few reports of prowlers in the area recently, but nothing conclusive, said Officer Jim Barnes, one of the responding officers. "We assured Mr. Harper we'd keep an eye on the neighborhood." Unfortunately, there was no trace of the person he described. Friends and family say that in the days leading up to the incident, Harper had been increasingly paranoid, convinced that someone was watching him. He installed security cameras around his home, hoping to catch a glimpse of the stranger, but the footage revealed nothing out of the ordinary. "David told me he felt like he was losing his mind," said Chris Andrews, a longtime friend. He was convinced that this man was following him, even though there was no proof. He started sleeping on his couch with a flashlight, like he was waiting for something. On the night of the final encounter, Harper reportedly heard a series of knocks coming from his back door. This time, the man wasn't outside. Harper's neighbor, who wishes to remain anonymous, claims to have heard Harper shouting shortly before everything went silent. "I heard a loud thud, like something heavy falling," the neighbor said. "I looked out my window and saw the lights in his house flickering, but then everything went dark. I thought maybe the power had gone out, but it was just his house." When officers arrived at the scene the next morning, they found Harper lying on the floor, his expression locked in terror. There were no signs of a struggle, no visible injuries, and nothing to suggest foul play. His phone was nearby, with the last call cut off mid-sentence. "It's like he just stopped," Officer Barnes said, visibly disturbed. "I've never seen anything like it. No trauma, no evidence of any physical altercation. Just fear." The coroner's report lists the cause of Harper's condition as a sudden cardiac event, though the exact trigger remains unknown. Toxicology tests showed no drugs or poisons, and there were no underlying medical conditions that could explain what happened. However, what haunts those who knew Harper, and now the entire town, is a single, unnerving detail. A faint, greasy handprint on the glass of Harper's back door, right where he had reported seeing the stranger. The print, smeared and barely visible, was the only trace of the intruder, leaving many to wonder if Harper's fears were indeed justified. Despite the official findings, questions linger about what truly transpired that night. Was Harper's unresponsiveness simply the result of extreme fear, or was there something more sinister at play? For now, the Maplewood Police Department has closed the case, citing insufficient evidence of foul play, but locals remain uneasy. "I don't care what the report says," Andrews continued. "David didn't just pass out from fear. Something terrified him. That man, whoever he was, he got inside David's head, and maybe his house too." With no suspects, no clear answers, and a lingering sense of unease, Maplewood remains on high alert. Residents have started locking their doors earlier, installing more lights, and keeping a watchful eye on the shadows that stretch across their once peaceful streets. Harper's house now sits empty, a "for sale" sign in the yard, waiting for its next owner. But rumors persist among the townspeople, who claim that at night, if you look closely, you might still see something in the windows. A flicker of movement, a pale face watching from the darkness. And as the town tries to move on, one thing is certain. No one wants to be alone after dark anymore, not in Maplewood, not after what happened to David Harper. Because if there's one thing everyone agrees on, it's this: once you let the stranger in, he never really leaves.